Good morning. It's Easter today, and I wanted to share some thoughts about Jesus today. I know it sounds super campy and shit, but I was really reflecting on this in meditation, and over the past couple of weeks, I've really been like just having some things come to me about Jesus and what he was really doing here for us. And, in the Christian faith, which I've spent several years in the past, it was that he died so the blood would wash away our sins, quite literally. But I'm having some different feelings. Like I have always felt that wasn't true for me. And now I'm really understanding what is the truth for me. And so, really, what that was is like, he was doing something really beautiful. Like, yes, I do feel that he was this teacher, this like ascended master, so to speak, is kind of like the language, I suppose, that sums it up for me. Um, but there's something really powerful there because like he came and he just lived like this really magical life. And then I'm just going to throw it out there and say he chose to die at age 33. Okay, like, because do we really feel like he couldn't have escaped? Do we feel like there was no way that he could have gotten out of it? Like, he fucking straight up told Judas that he knew he was going to betray him. Like, he had the gift of foresight, so he knew what was going to happen. He had enough of a following that he could have been like, hey, dudes, I need to like escape here and go take refuge. Like, can you do me a solid? But no, he was like, I know this is going to happen and I am going to stand up and allow it and do it anyways, right? Despite probably all of like the feelings that come up. Because something that we like don't give Jesus credit for is for being a man, like actual like physical in the body. We just call him like man or whatever, God, son of man. I think that's the right phrase. I'm not sure. And with that, we forget that he experienced everything that we experienced. Like he wasn't impervious to the human experience and to the feelings, right? And the thoughts, and the physicalness of it. He experienced all of that, but from a different, like, higher self state of mind. And so the more I come into my own higher self state of mind, the more I understand the energy of Jesus. He had thoughts, he had feelings, he wasn't perfect. He had the ego side that we all do, right? That's the imperfect side. We all have it. And then he had his soul, right? That God connection, that soul, that God consciousness in him, as we all do. And something about his experience, it was he was more connected, more open to it. Maybe that consciousness bit was more evolved or whatnot. Like there's lots of things going on there that I don't even have answers to. I just know that he did also have ego and soul. He was a man and he was God because we are all God. And he just chose to stand up and do a lot of things differently. And so he was cast out. Wow, like how often, like how is that going to happen to me as I post this video, right? I'm not by any means wanting to compare myself to Jesus in that way, but when we think about it, it's, oh, when we live in our higher self state of mind, people reject it because it triggers their their current thought processes. It literally could shatter the entire fragile structure in which we live in that mental state. And for me, that's really where like religion falls into it. Is it's a very fragile structure. A lot of times it's built on fear-based leadership. Not always. I don't, I've been to some really beautiful places and I just think it's quite lovely. But, I spent a lot of time in Pentecostal church and it was all fear-based leadership. It was all very much authoritative. And if you didn't listen, you were going to hell. It was essentially, this contradiction of, your connection to God, that's what you should listen to, but you need to listen to your pastor first. Like, do you think Jesus would actually be impressed with that? Do you think God is impressed with that? Are you impressed with that? If you're in it, like, no, like it's not okay to do that because the reality is like heaven or hell are not these like grand places that we will end up when we die. Like heaven or hell are right here right now and we're creating that experience every second that we live with every choice that we do or don't make. That's a vibration place is heaven or hell. And so here's the kicker of like of Jesus is what I'm really understanding. Like he died willingly, okay? Like he just went, he took his punishment, so to speak. He didn't want to fight it. He said, yeah, okay, like this is what you feel is appropriate. We're going to go with that, I guess. I don't know every thought and feeling he was having about it. But yeah, I imagine there was part of him that was scared and that didn't want to do it, but understood what he was doing on like this very deep soul level. So my current belief is and feelings are that he died not to wash the sins so we would live eternally, but he died so that we would live right now. Wow. Not so we could live, but so we will live. Would live back then and will live now. Because we're eternal either way. Like we are eternal. Like that soul piece, like our body will die. Yeah, very much like Jesus's body died and his soul went to wherever it goes. I don't even know, back into that soul collective consciousness, right? Back into the universe. And it's because we don't have that final destination of heaven or hell. There right now, we're living either way. That soul piece lives on. And he was liberating us from ourselves, essentially. He was like really becoming the living embodiment of freedom and saying like, hey people, like there's a different way. Like, hey people, be kind to your neighbors, don't make idols, don't be a dick. Really, like if we could just sum up everything that Jesus was doing, it's don't be a dick, be a decent human being instead, right? Like, because that's really what it is, living from that heart and that place of kindness. um so we can really honor him not by like praying to his statues or like being in church or doing all of these things, which are all beautiful and we can all do them when we feel called to do that. Um, but we can honor him by living in the now moment, by living with loving like kindness and compassion. That's the heart of Jesus's message right there. So we're all over here like, what would Jesus do? But then being a dick all day, well, that's not what Jesus would do. Like that is really a powerful question, because if you truly ask, like, what would he do? He probably wouldn't even give a shit about half the stuff that we're sweating of, like, what would Jesus do in this situation? He would just like literally walk away and be like, cool, dude, like no sweat off my back. Because how often are we just worrying about the tiny things that don't matter? Like he was really living in a completely different mental state. Like all of these little things of like somebody cutting us off and somebody like talking behind our back, somebody like projecting their own pain, right? Like we take all of this personally because we're also projecting our own pain. So we're receiving the pain in relation to where we are in relation to our own. Mm. And so because Jesus was really like shedding all of this shit and like transcending so much in such a short amount of time, he didn't like, it's almost like he didn't even have time for any of that. It just was like non-existent. Like, and he understood so deeply people's experiences and their projections of pain that he had this very deep sense of compassion. Like, wow, yeah, I understand that. And it's not going to let it phase him. That's the piece I think that a lot of us are missing and that I've missed and I still do miss sometimes, right? Is why are we getting so offended about somebody else's experience? Because we have some healing to do. So what would Jesus do? He would go like probably find that piece that needs healing for him. Because again, he did have an earthly experience. He did have parents. He did have a body. Like you think that he didn't need to do any kind of healing? Mm, I don't know about that. We don't know a lot about Jesus' childhood. We just know about the work that he did. And so we don't know really what he did to get to that space of this like ascended mindset and soul consciousness. We just know that he was there and doing these amazing things. So instead of um like all of these statues and stuff, like sidebar, like would Jesus really be impressed that like we're literally praying to statues of him hung up on a cross, or that we honor him in that way? I think it's kind of weird and fucking morbid. Like, no, he would be like, what is this? Like, go out and actually do something good. Are we really better than the Pharisees if we're just still continuously sitting in here, like in our own little cliquey communities and never going out, or we're just trying to go out and get more people in, like spread the good word. But really what that means is you're just trying to get your church numbers up. Stop it. Like, I see you. Let's all be good to one another. Just because. Let's be good to one another regardless of if someone's going to heaven or hell. Like, this isn't some kind of like game. This isn't some sort of mission to be on of like, I mean, I suppose for some people it might be, but I don't believe that's the heart of Jesus is I must save as many people from hell as possible, because that's about you, right? Share the message of Jesus by becoming the embodiment of that Jesus-like energy, right? Because we all have that in us and we can all be that person of just sharing love, sharing kindness, sharing compassion without wanting something in return, right? Like, I don't really believe Jesus was trying to get anything. Like, he helped people that nobody else would help. And so now, like in this day and age, we misconstrue that by like trying to save everyone from themselves. But like in some regard, we're all on our own journey and we can really only save ourselves. So instead of worrying about trying to like get as many people to heaven as possible, just be a good person. Like, really, what would Jesus do? He would be kind and compassionate no matter if they were a lost cause or not, because that's not actually a thing. So we should really become that embodiment of that next level love that he was emitting at that time and spread that into the world, because change just starts with one person. So when we become that embodiment, wow, okay, one change, and then we get to show that to everyone that we come in contact with. And then maybe some of those people will then really feel that as well. And then they start their own ripple effect. But I don't have to worry about every person that I know, like coming to see the light, so to speak, because that's not my job. My job is just to be myself. And I think that's what Jesus was doing as well, was just being himself, like this friggin' awesome human being, really just spreading the love and kindness. And I feel like he was pretty straightforward about how we should live, and we really like dig into it a lot and take a lot of things out of context, but then take a lot of things like very, very literally. And it's like, dudes, this was like 2000 years ago. This was a long time ago. Like, we're different now. We have evolved since then. So is it possible that every single thing that came out of his mouth and since then is still like exactly how it should be? Well, maybe not. I don't know. I'm not going to be the judge for each person's life. But for me, that's a no, because we've evolved. We are also in a different state of consciousness now. We've had 2000 years of evolution since then. Of course, a little bit's outdated, but do we feel how that heart of Jesus's message is still the same? Like, that's the core of mine, is like, let's just fucking be decent human beings and love each other. I think that's really what he was saying at the heart of it. And you know, I really feel like Jesus was showing us a different way to be in that time. He was showing us that we could be free right now. He was showing us that um, we could be liberated from ourselves and from all of that earthly shit that we keep, that egoic shit, I should say, that we allow to hold us back. That's what he was doing up there on the cross, was, wow, despite all of it, like, I'm going to just do this thing, because he lived so fully. And then I need to take a deep breath, guys. He was this ultimate like example of freedom and liberation. That's really what I feel, right? And that he was just showing that back, like really reflecting that back to us quite literally, in that of, wow, I'm going to die and show you a different way in that. And like the best way that we can honor his death is really by living in this now present moment with love and compassion, by not getting bogged down in our own shit or letting people drag us into theirs, is like by always giving and receiving, right? Like being in that flow. That's, I think, embodying the heart of Jesus. It's like living and serving from that place of unconditional love. Like, whoa, what if we did that? What if we could do that? What if we began to transcend our own story and our own pain and come into that Jesus-like energy? I'm not going to say Jesus energy because, well, I might have already said it, but really it is Jesus like, because we all have our own energy, right? There's no like replacing that particular one, but we all have our own version of that because we all have a soul. We all have a piece of God, the universe inside of us. So we are capable of that level of transcendence and impact in the world if we so choose, because we are God. We are all God. And that is such a beautiful and powerful thing. Like, our power is infinite. The possibilities are endless. And here we keep ourselves bound to a small story of like, oh, well, like, I don't know about this or that, or this person told me this once. No, what does your heart tell you? What is your soul telling you? Because that's what's really important right now. That's really the place that you want to listen and live from. You know, the death is also really symbolic, like in a lot of ways. But really another piece is showing us to really die to ourselves, right? If we want to get more into that symbolism, die to ourselves daily. So then we can wake up in that next highest level of us, or highest version, I want to say level, highest version of ourselves every day. This is like, this ascension is inward. This awakening is inside. There's nowhere up, or, you know, to go like spiral upward. No, it's a spiral inward. And so as we die to these old stories, right, let that fall away, shed everything that we thought we were, and allow the soul to really speak and emerge and become the highest version of ourselves every day, a little bit more, a little bit more. Because there's always more, because there's nowhere else to go, right, other than the right now. And wow, how beautiful would it be if we truly became the embodiment of dying daily to ourselves? What if we let this live on every day instead of coming on like Easter and Christmas as like, oh, Jesus was born and Jesus died? He would be like, what the fuck, you guys? Like, go live every day. Don't wait for 2 days a year to honor my life and miss out on your own. Wow. Don't get so caught up in needing to live by Jesus's rules, which I don't think were actually rules, guys, or whatever it might be, or even the biblical rules. I know that was like a little offensive. Don't get so caught up in that you're missing on your own experience in your own life right now. I don't think he would be impressed with that. He'd be like, what are you doing? You're literally missing out by trying to fulfill something that was 2,000 years ago. Like, he literally also said that he came to abolish the old, like the law of the Old Testament. Guys, like, do we not see how we've literally created another version of the Old Testament by now following the New Testament like it's law? And like, it blows my mind. I'm like, we're doing it again, and we don't have to. Like, he literally showed us that we don't have to ever do that again. You know, he gave us, you know, I suppose in some ways, some guideline, like the Sermon on the Mount stuff, like that was fucking gold. Those are the principles to live by. That's stuff from the heart of like, help your neighbor, uh, you know, be the light. I don't even, I should go read the Sermon on the Mount now that I'm thinking about this, because I feel like that might be really powerful for me to circle back to. I don't remember all the things at this point, but that's really the piece of like, you know, he probably like channeled that message, which is like really fascinating to reflect on now. But that's the piece of it. The heart of Jesus is really what he was trying to get across. Not that you have to do X, Y, and Z to get to heaven. Do you know why like the pathway to heaven was really narrow, like going through a needle? Because a lot of us aren't willing to first off admit that heaven and hell are not a destination, that they're here right now, but that it can actually be quite challenging for the ego to shed all of the old stories and live in the present moment fully. Wow, that's why heaven can be hard. so challenging to attain because it is a state of mind and a state of being that we choose every moment that we're here. It's not some elusive thing that is like, oh, if I do all the things right and I check off all the boxes, maybe I'll get to heaven. When we die, in from that like more Christian perspective, when we die and go face to face with God, and He asks us the whatever questions that it is to get back into heaven, like, do you think He's going to be asking, like, were you a jerk to Tommy in 5th grade and did you apologize? Like, do you think He's really keeping track of all of that? Like, or does he want to know, like, did you live from the heart with kindness and compassion? Did you learn from your mistakes? We're all making mistakes. We're fucking human, you guys. So give yourself a break. Like, it's really not life or death. Jesus and God would be more concerned with, wow, were you living in the present moment? Were you honoring your truth? And were you sharing love with the world? Were you living in your highest? Wow. Because even when like that ego part of me gets the best of me, like I like at this point, it's sort of like out of body experiences. Like if I'm feeling irritation, anger, all the things, and I'll just be like, wow, yeah, I see you. I feel that happening, and more coming from that observant standpoint and letting that play out because I have feelings and I get to express them in this life, and then using it to learn and grow and come into my next highest. That's what Jesus would want for all of us, not to be torturing ourselves on a daily basis trying to follow all of these rules. He wants you to live your life now. That's what he was doing. He was being freaking a stand-up citizen of the earth. Wow. Let's all strive to be like that today. Like, let's honor him this Easter in 2021 by becoming the embodiment of that Jesus-like energy, living with kindness, love, and compassion. All right. I hope you guys have a beautiful day. I love you, and I will catch you on the flip side.